Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to my weekly live Q&A. Sorry for the delay. Sorry also for the time change and the day change. I know I was supposed to do these at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, but you know, scheduling stuff comes up every now and then, so I'm forced to switch these around. But all good. I'm here, so that's what matters. You're here. So let's get this party started. As you guys know, this works pretty simple. You guys ask questions via Twitter, and I answer them. And in the later part of this video, I answer the questions that are on the YouTube live chat. Obviously, for the people that didn't get to submit questions via Twitter. So all good. If you didn't ask questions via Twitter, that's what the YouTube live chat's for. So make sure you throw stuff on there at any point in time during this video. And again, I'll get to it in the later part of this video. A lot to talk about, man, and I know I say that almost every single video, but it just seems there's always something to talk about every week. But with a big card coming off a really big card with UFC Fight Island 6, obviously consequential stuff at 145 pounds with Brian Ortega picking up a huge win over Korean Zombie, looking very good too. And also now we got a huge pay-per-view. I think this is the biggest fight of the year. Title unification bout, really. Two champions going at it. Justin Gaethje trying to challenge Khabib Nurmagomedov. I think the second biggest fight after that would probably be the trilogy between Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier. Then maybe you can make a case for Usman Masvidal. And yeah, there's a few other big bouts. But I think this, by far, has to be the biggest. I mean, from an attention standpoint, obviously Khabib is a huge star. Justin Gaethje is a star of his own, at least in the MMA bubble. I mean, you cannot be a Justin Gaethje hater. I mean, the guy always delivers. And on top of that, I mean, this is a huge test for Khabib Nurmagomedov. Easily, he could cement himself as one of the best in the world, pound for pound. With a win here, there's no doubt he's going to be the greatest lightweight in the history of the UFC and MMA. I already think he is, but I think with a victory here, I think the people that are kind of in the middle, he'll help convince those people. And then on top of that, it's extremely consequential. I mean, you look at what this bout means, especially if Khabib means. I mean, you could be staring down a potential Conor McGregor rematch if all goes well with Conor McGregor in his reported bout with Dustin Poirier, GSP. I mean, there's so many things that are on the line because of this fight. So again, a lot of things to talk about. So let's get right into it. First question is by Brandon Music, KY. I don't know if that's Kentucky. I'm not really sure what what acronym is that for. But he asks, Gaethje is great at calf kicks. Are these a good way to counter Khabib style wrestling? Seems hard to take down off them based off the angle. And yeah, there's definitely something to that. But I will say this to answer your question, Brandon. Anytime you throw a kick, you're susceptible to takedowns. I mean, just think about this. You're on one leg. You're not in your optimal balance. I can literally put my hand on your chest and push you back. And that itself will probably cause a takedown and cause you to fall back. So keep that in mind. No kick is it really 100% immune to a takedown. Now, would that kick be better off than, say, a strike higher up the leg? Yes, of course. I mean, it's much harder to catch, given the fact that you have to reach much lower, change levels. And, we're talking about split second here. Those kicks are lightning quick. So certainly I would say if you're just going to throw kicks, I think the calf kicks are much more useful in this situation, keeping in mind Khabib's wrestling, as you noted. But I'll still say this. I'll still say it's pretty dangerous to throw kicks with Khabib because, again, you're going to be off balance. You're going to be on one leg, even if it's for 1 second, right? I'm curious to see how much Gaethje uses his kicks. I think in some fights we've seen him use it a lot. I think in the Tony Ferguson fight, it was mainly his hands. I mean, he had some kicks here and there. But I saw him come up through World Series of Fighting, and I've already shared the story several times. I mean, when I was covering sort of like the smaller promotions coming up in the MMA game, I got to witness a lot of cool shit. And one of the things that I witnessed was sort of Justin Gaethje's rise, and I saw him win a world title, World Series of Fighting championship belt. I forgot what night. It might have been like World Series Fighting 11 or something. I don't know. But anyways, I forgot who he fought. But dude, the guy was lighting people up with calf kicks. I mean, he was just tremendous at that. Obviously, as the opposition got a little tougher, I think we've seen him, especially in the UFC, dial those back a little bit. But nonetheless, it's still a very dangerous weapon from his game. So we'll see. Again, this is the first time that Justin Gaethje fights someone with the style of Khabib, someone who's constantly trying to take him down, someone whose game plan is pretty out there. I mean, it's no secret what Khabib is going to try to do in a fight. So I'm curious to see what the game plan is going to be of Trevor Whitman and how they're going to tackle this fight. And yeah, I'm curious to see what kind of version of Justin Gaethje are we going to see, really. Also, I just want to see how his wrestling holds up. I mean, we constantly talk about, and people constantly talk about how great his wrestling is and how great of a wrestler he was back in the day before, when he was competing in sport wrestling. But MMA is a different thing. MMA is a different thing. I mean, look at a guy like Joel Romero, just a freak athlete, one of the best wrestlers in his time. And in mixed martial arts, he's mainly a striker. I mean, he's had some takedowns in the past, but he's not a dominant wrestling force like Khabib or others. So, I don't know. I'm curious to see how Gaethje look. This is going to be certainly interesting. Good question, though. But to answer it, certainly calf kicks are a better tool to use and not get taken down than say, a head kick or a body kick or a kick higher up the leg, for sure. No doubt. All right. Second question by Michael Taro, and he says, would you rather see Ortega fight for the title or a rematch with Holloway? Usually, I would say anything but the title. I mean, he's just coming off a really long layoff. Yes, he defeated Korean Zombie in spectacular fashion, no doubt about that. And but I mean, even champions, like I don't really like this thing where champions like win one fight, and then they're challenging again for the belt. I don't really enjoy that, but that's kind of my style. I'm not saying that's bad at all, because certainly we've seen fighters do that and do well or regain their belts, etc. So I would say in this case, because of the landscape at 145 pounds, dude, I would rather have him challenge for the belt. I mean, clearly with his last performance, he's evolved enough to like question, if Volkanovski is able to hold on to that belt against Ortega. I mean, I'll probably favor Volkanovski, but I don't think you can say with confidence that Ortega doesn't stand a chance. I think that'd be pretty ridiculous to say. I mean, keeping in mind the threat level that he brings with his jiu-jitsu, you would kind of keep in mind that Volkanovski would be hesitant to wrestle him. And in the striking, dude, he outstruck Korean Zombie and he hurt him bad. So, and who even knows? I mean, his takedowns look pretty good too. I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to score a takedown on Volkanovski. So, I prefer Ortega go for the title. I think the Holloway rematch sounds like a lot of fun. I would certainly love to see that. I mean, it was a fantastic first fight. I think Ortega has improved a lot since. I think he'd be far more competitive. I don't know if he'd win. He could win, maybe. But certainly he'd be far more competitive than the first time out. So I'd love to see that, but I think at some point in time down the line, I don't think, although it makes some sense to have it happen right now, again, who would you plug into the title fight, right? It just feels like everyone else is missing that one key victory, right? Like that when Burns beat Woodley, right? That one fight that you go, okay, this person's ready. I mean, Jair, fantastic competitor, love his style, love what he brings, great fighter, world-class fighter, but the guy doesn't fight all that often, right? And his last win was over Jeremy Stephens. No disrespect to Jeremy Stephens. I think he's a fantastic fighter, but you wouldn't really consider that maybe like a title eliminator bout or anything like that. And then the only person I can think of, let me look at the UFC rankings here just to make sure I'm not leaving anyone out. It'd probably be the only person I can think of outside of Jair would be Zabit, right? Zabit, I believe he's coming off a win against, was it Calvin Kattar? Maybe. Yeah. back in November 2019. So it's been a year basically. And in that fight, man, we saw him do well. We saw him be a dangerous guy like always. But certainly Cater picked it up, in the later parts of the fight. And then a lot of people were questioning if it were a 5 rounder, how that fight would play out. Certainly, I'm not saying Zabit would have lost. We don't know, but I think it's a fair question to ask, right? If there were 10 extra minutes on that fight, who would win that fight, right? So I'd love to see him in a 5 round fight. Because that was a 3 rounder. Yeah, right. Because they stepped up on short notice. I'd love to see him in a 5 round fight before him challenging for the belt. So again, all these other contenders are, and Chan Sung Young coming off a loss, it just seems. And what are you gonna do? Holloway, Volkanovski, Holloway 3 after Volkanovski just won 2. Really, the only answer and the best answer here to put into that title fight is Brian Ortega. He's ranked number 2, whether you like it or not. And he seems like, again, a threat to the champion, which that's a good sign. He got a legit win over Chan Sung Young, kind of stole his momentum, and there's really no other contenders that are clear cut. So I would say the Ortega fight for Volkanovski just to keep that division going, really. But I'd love to see it. I think that's a fantastic fight. The champ wants to see it. He recently said he'd love to get his hands on Ortega, and Ortega wants it. So, and look, Dana White even said it. If Brian Ortega wins here, I mean, he said that was a title eliminator. So, it just makes all the sense in the world to have that fight happen. Volkanovski Ortega. Let's see. 8 paths of wokeness, and again with a Dustin Poirier question, the biggest Dustin Poirier hater, and he says, Dustin was offered amount of money to fight Ferguson, but he declined. Then he was offered a certain amount of money for Chandler. Again, he declined. What are the chances that 1, he gets offered the same amount again, and 2, he rejects the fight because of the pay? So he did say he accepted against on Twitter on maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago. He did say that he accepted the bout with Conor McGregor, and that means it's on, right? I mean, he didn't say that for Tony Ferguson. I mean, he said he wanted the fight, but he never said I accept. He just wanted higher compensation, and he didn't state that with the whole Conor thing. So I'm assuming it's good to go. But to answer your specific question, if he really puts his foot down and asks, if they don't give him a certain amount of money that he wants, I still think he takes that fight. I mean, a Conor McGregor fight is huge. Either way, that's a guy that has a lot of belief in himself. He knows if he's victorious against Conor McGregor, the amount of attention that he's going to be getting. I mean, think about what a Nate Diaz win did to Jorge Masvidal. It did wonders, right? And Conor McGregor is a way bigger star than, obviously that was the BMF and there was other factors involved, but still, Conor McGregor is a huge star. If you beat him, you beat him in a crazy war, which that's kind of what you would expect from a Dustin Poirier fight. None of those guys are going to wrestle. They're going to strike, and somebody's going to go down. And if he knocks down McGregor, if he knocks him out, there's going to be a lot of attention on him. He's going to become the number 1 contender, undoubtedly. And with attention, again, a lot of people get upset at fighters for engaging in trash talk and sometimes playing characters and sometimes not being themselves and all that. And I get it. I mean, as a fan, I think you have a little bit of a different role, but usually for the most part, the higher profile you have brings you so much more money. I mean, and I'm never going to hate on somebody for just trying to make a better living for themselves and for their families. So, again, he knows if he beats McGregor, becomes a huge star, I mean, there has to be a new contract coming his way, right? Or you would expect, right? I mean, he'd be far more valuable to the company with a victory over McGregor than a defeat, right? I think that's pretty obvious. And again, it would turn him into a pretty big star. He's a very likable guy. He does great things with his charity. So, he's an easy guy to get behind because he's just does a lot of good stuff for his community. And then on top of that, he's a sick fighter. He's fantastic. I mean, he's very unique. He's very unique. He's one of these fighters that one of the very few fighters that are able to be fan favorites, kind of like a Diego Sanchez, and the list goes on. Of all these other fighters that put on exciting fights, and you know, Nico Price, Donald Cerrone, etc. But at the same time, he's world class. Like, usually that mix doesn't come around too often. World class fighters tend to be a little bit more cautious, and sure, they can put on exciting fights from time to time, fight of the nights, fight of the years, like we saw Yana Jędrzejczyk, Zhang Wei Li. But usually their main goal, again, is to stay up top, to be the best. And to be the best, sometimes you have to hold back a little bit. You can't expose yourself all that much. But Poirier has this weird middle ground where he's clearly world class. He belongs among the best 155-pound fighters in the world. But at the same time, I mean, the dude puts on a fight. The dude puts on a performance, puts on a show every time he gets in there. It's just part of his nature. So I think that fight with Conor McGregor happens. If they offered him the same amount of money that they did with Chandler and Tony Ferguson, I still think he takes it. But I would imagine that because this is a main event bout, right? Keep in mind, Conor McGregor is not going to fight co-main event. They're going to be offering more money, right? It's a main event, and you know, he's not being in the co-main event of a Khabib title fight, right? He's the main attraction. You know, he's fighting 2 extra rounds as opposed to 3, right? He's fighting 5. So I think again, McGregor main event, all that stuff would give him enough leverage to negotiate a little bit more money. I think so. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully he got more money, right? Terrence Lariat, shouts out to Terrence, the homie. This is a great question. How has Jiu Jitsu been going, and has the sport changed since you last rolled? Since I last rolled, probably not. I mean, I rolled, I think maybe earlier this year, maybe. I don't know, or maybe like late last year. So I don't think it's changed much since. I'm sure there are new techniques here and there that are popping up. But for the most part, the style's sort of the same. However, since I first started and since I stopped training continuously, like 4 times a week, right? The sport did change dramatically. I remember when I was in my peak as far as like consistency and you know, where I thought I felt my best, not only shape-wise, but skills-wise as well. The Mendes bros were really big. I mean, one's retired. I think both are retired. I don't know. I know certainly one is retired. But the Mendes bros were like the thing, you know? And the Berimbolos were like a huge thing. And all that is already old school. It's already old school. The leg locks have really taken over the jiu-jitsu game. To be quite honest, I do not like it. I think it's kind of ruined it. I respect it because it's still jiu-jitsu and it's still effective. I'm not going to get mad. Hey, you can't do that, you know? And it's just like, dude, we're trying to be real. Like, you know, that's part of it, you know? Everything is game, right? But like, it just kind of took away a lot of the grappling. I think there's a lot of stalling out in positions. There's less positions. There's less scrambles. There's less fighting for positions. I've rolled with guys that like literally just let you mount them, and they're so flexible that they can bring their leg over and put you in a leg lock, and that to me is like, again, I couldn't even fight to get them out. They just let me, you know, get them out, and I think that's kind of annoying. And because I do have a little bit of a wrestling background, maybe I do enjoy the back and forth and the fighting for positions. So maybe I'm a little biased on that end, but yeah, it's changed a lot. Whenever I go grapple and I go to an academy, like everyone always thinks I have a very notable and distinct style, but it really isn't. It was just the style that it was back then and what I'm good at, which is a lot of chokes and again, a very position-based game. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it's changed a lot. Jiu-jitsu is constantly changing. I think it's changed for the worse, to be quite honest, but it's certainly more effective, right? Great question, though. Let's see. The Governor. the boxing sensei. Is Tony still the most difficult stylistic matchup for Khabib? He has an iron chin, never-ending cardio, dangerous striking, and a high-level BJJ game. I struggle to see how Khabib doesn't struggle in that fight. Um, same. I still think that maybe I do feel different about the Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje matchup now after seeing him lose to Justin Gaethje. And I would say it's because obviously that loss to Justin Gaethje was a bad loss. You can't say he looked good in that, right? I have my theories as to why he didn't look that great. I think a thing that really screwed him over, and he said it before, but he's kind of like said it like very mildly, like he's not really like making a huge case about it and trying to get a rematch or making excuses. But he said it like, dude, I was training for like one of the greatest wrestlers in MMA that's ever lived. And in my opinion, the greatest wrestler that's ever lived as far as MMA wise goes. And then he went literally on what, 2 weeks notice, 3 weeks. He changed to literally one of the most dangerous strikers that's ever set foot in the octagon. Like that's a pretty big change, man. And obviously the game plan had to be off, and at these type of fights, these like world-class fights, preparation really matters. It really does. So I think with a full camp, maybe Justin Gaethje would have beat him again, but I think certainly he would have looked a lot better than he did that night. And frankly, I think he maybe could have won. Also, that second weight cut, because remember, he cut weight before that fight. Before he had to cut weight, I think that hurt him. That hurt him bad. Even Javier Mendez, in one of the interviews that I had with him, he's like, "That I don't give a shit what anybody says. I don't care what anybody says." He told me that had to screw him over. And if I were his coach, I'd be like, "Dude, we are fighting. I am not letting you cut that weight. If you want to cut that weight, you have to fight me." That's what he said. Those were his words, and I agree. But anyways, so back then, like, I certainly thought without a doubt that Tony Ferguson was the hardest and the most difficult style matchup for Khabib Nurmagomedov, no doubt. No doubt. And then right after, it had to be Justin Gaethje. At this point in time, after taking that beating from Justin Gaethje, and Khabib said this in an interview, I think it was with Brett Okamoto with ESPN. He said, dude, you can't take that type of damage and be the same. And look, we've seen fighters take extremes amount of damage. I mean, we were just talking about Dustin Poirier, a guy who's had plenty of damage in his career. He's had tons of crazy fights, and he still has a solid chin and looking very good. In fact, he's better than ever. I think he's at his best at this point in time. So that could certainly be the case for Tony Ferguson, but we got to keep in mind that Dustin Poirier is significantly younger. I believe Dustin is like, what, 33? Let me look that up. Maybe younger. 31, yeah. He's 31 years old. And Tony Ferguson, I believe he's 36. Tony Ferguson is 36 years old. Turns 37 in February. So, like, what, 6 months or something? 5 months. So yeah, man, at that age, I mean, I don't know. I do have questions as to what kind of version of Tony Ferguson will we see upon a return. If he looks vintage, I still think he'd be the number one threat, given his style and everything that you mentioned. Again, dangerous striking, high-level BJJ, those elbows from the bottom, you already know. Never-ending cardio, like you said. You're not going to wear that guy out, especially with grappling. Iron chin. Again, everything that you mentioned, the boxing sensei. I think you make an excellent point. I would say I still think stylistically that's the most dangerous guy. But, although he still has that style, I wonder if he still has the body to, use that style to the fullest. I don't know if that makes sense. But, yeah, I got questions. Look, if we never see that fight, that's going to be literally, I think, the worst thing. Probably like the biggest missed fight or missed opportunity or whatever you want to call it. It was just too good to be true. To the longest win streak, certainly in the division, certainly in the UFC. The uncrowned champion versus the champion. Because remember, Ferguson won an interim title, and every fight that he had after that could have easily been title defenses. And if that fight never comes through, that would certainly suck. And it kind of seems that way a little bit. We'll see. Ferguson is having a tough time getting opponents. I mean, he kind of got left in the dark. Hopefully he takes that Chandler fight, and Chandler wants it. I don't know if Ferguson wants it. I think he kind of looks down on Chandler, like, dude, you ain't at our level. Like, you just got here. But I feel like that'd be a fantastic fight, and even then, I still wouldn't pit it as the number one contender. I think the number one contender is going to be Conor and Poirier whenever that goes down. But look, I would say this, though. If Poirier wins that fight and Tony Ferguson beats Chandler, I think most people would want to watch the Tony Ferguson matchup because it's a fresh matchup and there was still such a big buildup for that, rather than a rematch with Poirier, right? Because we saw the rematch with Poirier, November of 2019 at UFC 242, so not that long ago. So I'll say that'd be his chance. All right, so that does it for the Twitter questions. I know there weren't that many, but partly because, I know this was kind of a change in schedule and change in date and time, so I know that throws things off a little bit, so all good. There was another question asked. I did want to address this. However, I can't talk about it all that much. Somebody asked, I believe it was the Executioner 91. Was it? Let me double check. Yeah. So the Executioner 91 did want to ask about Mike Perry and the interview that my editor Simon Samano took out on our site MMA Junkie about Perry's ex-wife, right? They were married. Platinum Princess, I believe that's how she went by. And basically she had some pretty strong allegations about domestic abuse, right? Domestic violence against Perry. And, as much as I would like to address that, like, certain questions are, I just can't get into it all that much. You have to be, because of legal matters, not because I don't want to, but it's just very difficult to speculate on these type of things. But I do want to say that obviously it should be taken very seriously, and that's why there was a story on the site. Fantastic work also by Simon. He covered all his bases. And certainly all that should be taken seriously. And again, Mike Perry denies it, and that's kind of where we're at right now. I just hope that, moving forward, I know that Mike Perry says he's entered rehab, I believe. He's been doing rehab for drinking. I hope that's the case, and everything gets straightened out as well on that end. And I've seen a lot of comments, especially like when this first was announced about Mike Perry having a baby. A lot of people were very negative and like, oh, I can't, Mike Perry having a baby, like, oh my God. But I'll say this, man. Growing up, I saw some of my friends and some people that I knew that maybe weren't going down a great path, and they had kids, and that changed their lives and completely turned their lives around, and they're better people because of it. So I hope that's the case. And obviously, I don't believe Daniela wants to press charges, but yeah, I just hope the best for everyone, and certainly it should be taken seriously because it's no it's a very delicate subject, right? So I did want to address it just because, again, I'm very honest with you guys on these live chats and these live Q&As. I don't want to feel like I'm skipping your questions or hiding from anything. But when it comes to legal matters, you have to be very careful about the things you say, and you can't speculate in those type of things like you can in regular MMA topics, right? So so I appreciate the question, the Executioner 91, and that's all I could say as far as that. And for those people that haven't seen the interview and read the article, I encourage you guys to do so. It was great stuff. So it was very well done. All right, so that does it for the Twitter questions. I appreciate. Oh, actually, no. We got one more question. This was a DM. Alex Scafferty slid in my DMs, and she says, "What do you think can be done to help? Wait, what do you think can be done to help improve the UFC ranking systems? So, great question. Obviously, it's a very timely thing, as you guys have heard by now. Leon Edwards got booted from the welterweight rankings due to inactivity. He's no longer on the site rankings, and he himself confirmed it with a journalist who I do not remember the name of at this point in time, but let me look that up because gotta give credit where credit's due. He confirmed it to a journalist, basically saying, "Yep, I was out, and I was out due to inactivity." It was Cole Shelton. Oh, and then he also took to Twitter apparently and said, "I'm still in the rankings. Fuck all the inactivity. The only reason I haven't fought is because all these so-called top guys keep turning me down." Hamzat, wanna fight then? So, anyways, so yeah, a lot to unpack here. First, I know some people ask specifically about Leon, and I'll get to that in the later part of this video due to the fact that it was asked in the YouTube live chat. But I'll get to the ranking system first. I'll say this: there is no perfect ranking system, right? Someone's always gonna be unhappy. One of the reasons being is because rankings is very subjective. I mean, you're literally weighing people's wins, and also how they win influences where you should be in the rankings. Also, how many wins, right? If you're fighting once a year, you're getting pretty decent wins, and maybe somebody else is not fighting as good of opposition, but maybe, you know, the person, the guy or lady is picking up, I don't know, 5 wins a year. Like, dude, you got to be up there, right? So it's very subjective. Obviously, with some of the decisions that we've seen the UFC make, I think my problem with their rankings is not necessarily, and this is a great way to answer your question, Alex, as far as what can be done to improve the rankings. It's not really that they're bad. I wouldn't agree with how they rank all the time, but more or less, like if you look at the rankings, more or less, the best 15 guys in the division are there, or ladies, they're there, right? Rarely you get a guy that you could maybe swap out, right, and take out of the rankings and put in for number 14 or 15. But usually the best fighters in the division are in the rankings. I think we can all agree on that. Now, the order, I think that's where maybe I don't agree with some. But my biggest issue with the rankings, and I think this would help out a lot of fighters, it would be the inconsistency. And I noted that on Twitter. And something I hate about Twitter is that because of the way the platform works, and you know, you're limited to a certain amount of characters. You know, I tweeted, basically quote tweeted our MMA Junkie article reporting that Leon Edwards is out of the rankings, and basically I said, rankings are so damn inconsistent. How long did Brian Ortega stay in the top 3? You have to feel bad for Leon Edwards. Tough position to be in. And a lot of people were now taking offense that I was taking a shot at Ortega. Clearly, I'm not. I mean, I was just very complimentary in a previous question about him. My problem is the inconsistency, because Brian Ortega had been out since December of 2018. And yes, he had injuries. He had a scheduled bout. He got injured. But you can say that Leon had a bout in March against Tyron Woodley, and a pandemic canceled the event. So it's not like the dude hasn't been down to fight, right? And then I believe he was the first option to fight Kamaru Usman before Gilbert Burns, but because of travel restrictions, because at the time U.S. weren't letting anybody in from Europe, then Leon couldn't fight, you know. And I think obviously I believe he hasn't fought since like March of 2019 or something like that. But that's my biggest issue, the inconsistency. Like, how can one guy like Brian Ortega be in the top 3 since December of 2018? And then a guy that certainly, you know, has like 6 months less of inactivity, they boot him out of the rankings. Same thing about Conor McGregor. Somebody noted Nina Ansaroff. That's my biggest issue, because look, if your rankings are not consistent, rankings should be there to like help fans know where people are at, and also help fighters improve their career. And if they're inconsistent, there's no way to tell what you can do to better your career, right? I'm sure if Leon Edwards, if there's a hard rule that says, hey, if you don't fight in a year, you get demoted out of the top 5 immediately. And if you don't fight in a year and a half, you get removed from the rankings, period. I'm sure something's going to light under his ass, and he's going to be like, okay, I'm going to get a fight, and I don't care if I have to fight Pepito Perez, some random dude. I'll fight just to be in the rankings. And, there's some clarity. There's transparency. People know what they can do to, again, to move along the rankings. People know what they can do to improve their positions within their divisions. But, like, when you're making these random decisions, and this guy we're going to take out of the rankings, this guy that's been out longer we're going to keep, we're going to have number 3 fight or number 6 fight against the champion, and you do all these inconsistencies, then I think that's where I have my biggest problem. So I think the biggest issue is inconsistency. And for me, start being consistent, and all of a sudden the rankings will get a lot better. And then on top of that, again, like I said, they're subjective. So you're going to have flaws every now and then. But the rankings need consistency. And they also need to be respected. That's also a thing that's problematic with the UFC. Like the fact that number 1 doesn't always fight the champion, and that's an issue. That's an issue. Again, if you want to move some guys up unfairly, again, I'm not saying that's the best solution, but I would certainly feel a lot more comfortable if number 1 fights the champion all the time. And transparency, so guys know, or ladies know, what they're working with, and they're able to plan out their career, take certain fights, or act accordingly to move up the rankings. But at this point in time, no one knows what the magic recipe is. Everyone just kind of fights and hopes to get a nice number next to their name, and that's about it. That's about it. Also, something about the rankings. This would be a rule now that we're talking about it. Great question, Alex, by the way. Champions, if they lose, automatically out of the top 5. That should be a hard rule. Yes, you're still world class, but dude, you just lost, again, a title fight. Out of the rankings, and let the other guys move up. Out of the top 5 rankings. I'd love to see that. Again, I'm not a big fan of immediate rematches. I'm not a big fan, and I said it earlier, of champions losing their belt, winning one fight when there's contenders that are 5, 6 fight win streaks, and then getting another title fight. I think that's BS. I think automatically, if you're a champion and you lose your title, unless it's super controversial, you should get booted out of the top 5. So that, and consistency as far as the decisions you make for the rankings. Great question, by the way. All right, so the Twitter questions are now over. Let's do the YouTube live chat, shall we? So feel free to throw in whatever you want at this point in time. Okay, so Alex Howie, thoughts on the UFC removing Leon Edwards from the rankings? I kind of touched about it a little bit on this last question, but specifically to Leon, yeah, man, it sucks. I mean, he's clearly put in the work. He's in a crazy win streak, and he's a very good fighter. I mean, he's a skilled fighter. I think if they would have booted him down because of inactivity, I think that would have been fair. Sure, it would have sucked, but I think that's fair. If you're not fighting and other people are, again, those wins mean something, so it raises people's stocks. And if you're not fighting, your stock is staying here while others are doing this. So if you're going down the rankings, and if they would have booted him out of the top 5, I think that would have been perfectly fair. If they would have put him at 6, 7, 8, sure. I would not. It would suck for him, but I think that'd be fair, right? I don't know. Do you guys agree? But taking him out of the rankings, that I don't agree with, because he is a top guy, right? If you go, okay, name me the best 10 fighters in the welterweight division right now, Leon Edwards would certainly be in your list. So again, I don't agree with him getting kicked out of the rankings. I think maybe they should have brought his level down out of the top 5. Certainly inactivity is not a good thing. I mean, nobody can argue that it's a positive thing. A lot of things have been out of his control, the pandemic, a lot of other things. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. Also, something weird, and I know this, I saw a lot of people comment, well, he hasn't been taking fights. And I think that argument is a little bit BS, in the sense of that shouldn't be the reason why you're out of the rankings all of a sudden. But I think there is something to it a little bit, because if you guys remember, not so long ago, and we discussed it on this live Q&A, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson called him out That's a top guy. That's a guy with a good name in the division. I mean, you beat Wonder Boy. That's a two-time former title challenger. You beat him. That's one of those type of guys we're just discussing about, those type of wins that like put you in a place where you go, okay, this guy's definitely getting the title shot. That's what a win over Wonderboy Thompson does. I mean, if you look at Leon Edwards' career, it's good, it's impressive, but like much like many of the contenders at 145 pounds, he's missing that one win. He's missing that one win. Like he last beat Rafael dos Anjos, who's back down at 155 pounds and had many losses at welterweight. Sorry, but that doesn't get you a title shot. A win over Gunnar Nelson doesn't get you a title shot. A win over Don Cerrone, unless you're Conor McGregor, doesn't get you a title shot. A win over Peter Sabata doesn't get you a title shot. A win over Brian Barberina, again, Brian Barberina is a great fighter, but that doesn't get you a title shot. A winner over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, that gets you a title shot. So if the guy was calling you out and he was trying to get a fight, then fight him. I don't know if there was some other things. Again, I don't know the negotiations. I don't know if they were maybe lowballing Edwards. I don't know if they actually offered him that fight. We don't know. But it just seemed like that was a pretty no-brainer. He didn't even address it on Twitter. I don't think he ever addressed that call-out. But, yeah. So, anyways, that's how I feel about that specific question. All right. I live 100 feet from a great Colombian food. That's something to talk about. Sure. What do you get? What kind of food? I mean, Colombia is a very diverse place. Food from the coast is a lot different than in the center of the country. So I don't know what kind of food, but consider yourself lucky. When I was in New York, literally across from me there was a Colombian bakery, and dude, every day, almost every day, empanadas, arepas, pan de bonos, huevos pericos, chocolate, café. All good stuff, man. All good stuff. I miss it. Certainly having a Colombian restaurant nearby improves your quality of life for sure. All right, this is a funny question. CC 2.0. Due to Justin's takedown defense, does he have a greater chance of guillotine than normal? Is there any chance Justin could get the sub? I mean, there's always a chance. There's always a chance, my friend, but not a very big one. When has Justin ever even submitted anybody in the division? Let me check. Certainly not in the UFC. I don't know if in his career he's ever submitted anybody. I don't think so. I don't think he's ever won by submission. I could be wrong, though. Oh, no. He has one submission win. Back in Rage in the Cage 162, September 29, 2012. He submitted Sam Young. So, yeah, that's his only submission win. Yeah, the dude's not winning by submission. He's not submitting Khabib. No one is. If there's anyone that could maybe do it, it'd be Tony Ferguson. That's it. I know a lot of people make fun of and even Dustin himself makes fun of his guillotine chokes and guillotine choke attempts. The guy actually has a really good guillotine and really good chokes. They just haven't worked out because, again, he's fighting monsters. He's fighting elite fighters. Just submitting an elite fighter is a very difficult thing to do because defense is very on point. So, yeah, if he can't get it done, man, Justin's not getting it done at all. But never say never, right? Oh, fucking shit. All right, this just hurt my soul. But I'm going to keep it 100 because I always do. Roberto Figueroa. Hi, Danny. Can we get an Atleti reaction? Can Simeone right the ship? Simeone is right here, by the way. Wait, a little more. There we go. The fearless leader. Dude, so yeah, we lost 4-0 to Bayern. That stung very badly. But Bayern is just Bayern. I mean, they are the best team in the world, hands down, just fucking shredding it. Obviously, coming off a big Champions League win. Yeah, that's just a really good team. And physically, we just couldn't compete. I mean, speed wise, they were off the charts. They were just bodying everyone around, and on top of that, on top of the physicality, they're well managed and they have really good chemistry and work together. And I believe they were missing a couple key players as well too. So dangerous, dangerous team. Atleti, I mean, Atleti has had some good performances. I don't think we've lost yet in La Liga, right? We got two draws and two wins. I think Atleti is playing much better than last season. Again, it was Bayern, man. I don't want to put too much stock into this. Bayern can do that to anybody. I mean, they did that to Barcelona pretty badly, right? 8-2 not so long ago. So I would like to say this, though. I do think there is some fair criticism against Simeone. I love Simeone. I think he's done a fantastic job at turning this club into something, into European competitors. But he needs to attack more. He needs to attack more. You got guys like Joao Felix, Diego Costa, Luis Suarez, Yanni Carrasco on the left. We have a nice attacking team now. I mean, certainly we're no Bayern, we're no Liverpool, but I do think we have enough to do something else or do something a little bit beyond than just sitting back and shelling up and defending. I think on top of that, our defense, Godin is no longer here. Also, when he was in his prime, our defense is no longer what it used to be. Felipe Luis, Juanfran, they're no longer here. So with a weakened defense and a better attack, I do think there needs to be a shift in the way Simeone handles the team a little bit. That's how I feel about it. But I still think a lot of people want Simeone out. Not a lot of people, but some have suggested it. I still think that he's a very capable coach and the perfect coach to lead Atletico forward. So we'll see. Who you got for Khabib Gaethje? Dude, so good question. Good question, Felix. I've always been siding with Khabib, and I'm still siding with Khabib. However, maybe a week ago, I thought that Gaethje was a little bit of a bigger threat. But then I had a conversation with Javier Mendez on Monday's episode of my podcast, Hablemos MMA on MMA Junkie. It's in Spanish, by the way, if you guys haven't heard of it. Check it out everywhere. And again, he had some valid points, and I know, again, he's Khabib's coach, so of course he's gonna back him, and of course he's gonna be confident in Khabib picking up the victory. But just because somebody is biased and has interest in someone, that does not mean that they can't have valid points. And he did have a very, very valid point that made me kind of rethink this whole thing and give a little bit more stock, more of an edge to Khabib in this matchup, which is, think about this. The big unknown and the biggest thing talked about, the biggest thing in this narrative is the wrestling, right? Justin's a great background in wrestling, and not only that, but his hands, right, being very dangerous. But that him having the capability, I mean, he said it. I'm not gonna let one man hold me down, because if one man can hold you down, then two can rape you. That's basically what he said. And certainly I'm not going to discredit his wrestling background and his wrestling defense. And certainly he has this weird wiry body where you can actually see he'd be a hard person to keep down. He just feels like he's made out of a bouncy ball material. I don't know. It's weird to describe, but yeah, it was a weird description. But anyways, Javier Mendez said this, and he said, look, I'm not discrediting Gaethje's wrestling. He could very well be a very hard guy to take down, and we could have some trouble in this matchup as far as that. I don't think so, but it's possible. But I'll say this. You've never fought a wrestler in your entire career. I mean, you could say the best wrestler he's ever fought is Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez has some pretty good wrestling, but he doesn't wrestle much. Certainly not in that fight. So you've never fought a very elite wrestler in your entire career. And the first time that you're going to do it against the master of wrestling in MMA, the best wrestler in MMA that we've ever seen. In the biggest fighter in your life, halfway across the world, a different time zone, and in the biggest stage ever, main event. That's a tough hill to climb, man. And then if you shift it to the other side, Khabib's been fighting 5-round fights for some time now. He clearly has a huge experience in big moments in championship fights. I mean, he fought McGregor. That was a huge moment, and he performed admirably. He had an amazing performance. Clearly, the trash talk, the lights did not get to him. And on top of that, and this is the biggest point that he made, again, he said all this in Spanish. You can go back and check out the podcast from Monday. Khabib has been fighting guys all throughout his career that do not want to be taken down. So this is not a first for him. It might be a little bit of style difference, but he's constantly been fighting guys that do not want to be taken down, and yet he finds a way. So again, this is the 28th time, the 29th time for Khabib Nurmagomedov. And this is Justin Gaethje's first time as far as what is going to happen in this bout. So again, I think Justin Gaethje is a phenomenal competitor. I give him some decent odds going into this fight compared to other fighters that have fought Khabib Nurmagomedov. But I'm going to go with Khabib because, again, this is what he does. Again, I don't know. I may be a little biased. I might be a little influenced by Javi's comments, but I thought those made a lot of sense. And once you put it that way, I kind of want to give a lot of stock to Khabib at this point. James Fallon Cote. Again, this is allegedly, right? Leon Edwards removed from the UFC rankings, presumably because he didn't take the Wonder Boy fight. How many times will this happen before a fighters association is formed? And this won't help the cause. Trust me. This won't do it. Yeah, this won't do it. Again, it's a me problem. This is not an us problem. And I mean, frankly, I don't think we'll ever see an association in MMA. Maybe. Or a union. As soon as your problems get solved, you move on. That's it. That's how it works. You got money issues. UFC takes care of you. You move on. That's it. And again, I'm not blaming fighters to do that. At the end of the day, dude, this is prize fighting. There's no team here. You got to protect you and your family and your coaches, and that's it. But it's a individual sport, right? But yeah, this won't do it. This won't do it. All right. James Fallon Cote with another question. Will Crystal Cannonier have enough layers to his game to take out Robert Whittaker? Great question, because I really like that co-main event that we are going to see this weekend at UFC 254. But yeah, it's not being talked about that often or that much because the main event is so big, right? And so consequential. But it is a great fight, man. And I do think that this fight should determine the number one contender. Dana White has said, if Cannonier wins, he's definitely fighting for the title. Israel Adesanya has said, hey, I like Cannonier. I'd love to fight that guy. But nobody's talking about Whittaker. And it seems that this equation of what's at stake here is only for one man, and that is Jared Cannonier, not for Robert Whittaker. And I disagree. I don't think it should be that way. I think, again, if Robert Whittaker would get a victory here, he'd be coming off 2 wins. He wouldn't be like one of these champions that I was just saying that wins one and then it gets, he gets thrown, or she gets thrown right into the mix. Again, he would have 2 wins, defeating Darren Till and Jared Cannonier, the number one contender. Dude, you do that, you're number one contender. You should fight for the title. Yes, you lost to Adesanya, in a not so great fashion. But again, you beat the top guys. You're up next, man. That's how I feel about it. Also, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I really do think there is something to Robert Whittaker's fatigue on the fight game. I mean, we've seen those same comments from other fighters. We've seen that same championship pressure, affect many other fighters, right? We saw it. We saw it affect George St. Pierre to the point that he walked away from the sport. Rose Namajunas thought about retirement. Many other fighters have had lackluster performances and have been influenced by this pressure. So when he says that, I do believe it. I do believe it. Now, would it be enough to maybe change the outcome from an Israel Adesanya fight? Maybe. I don't know. But I'll say this. Out of all the fighters that are at 185 pounds, Robert Whittaker is, technique-wise, in the striking department, he is by far the most sophisticated fighter in that weight class, not counting the champion. He can actually speak the language of Israel Adesanya when it comes to the striking. Now, I think a second time out, I'm not saying Whittaker would win. I'd probably pick Adesanya, but I'd be interested in seeing it. Now, I understand maybe I'm not in the majority here. I think this is a very me opinion, but I would like to see a rematch. I would like to see a rematch. Hey, you beat Cannonier, you beat Darren Till. I'm about it. I'm about it. I think you deserve it, and I do think that there's something to your comments about fatigue. I'm talking about Robert Whittaker here. And again, I still think very highly of Robert Whittaker. I think he's a very capable fighter, a very sophisticated fighter, as I say, in the striking department. And I think he has something to offer to Israel Adesanya still. So anyways, with that being said, I'm going to pick Whittaker. I don't think Crystal Cannonier has enough to get the job done. Certainly, you got to respect his power. Also, a very technical guy as well. I'm not trying to discredit him by no means, but I just think that Whittaker's a step above. And Whittaker has faced some powerful strikers before. Romero, I mean, the guy's got a great chin. He's capable of taking some big hits. So I'm gonna go with Robert Whittaker in this one. I think he wins. I feel fairly confident about that pick. Now, I could be wrong, of course. Like I said, Cannonier's a game fighter here, but fairly comfortable about picking that one, I feel. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going with Whittaker here. Marco Aceves. Hola, Dani. What's good, bro? John Carmona. What do you think about Justin trying to wrestle against Khabib? Sort of flipping the script here. I'd love to see that one day. Maybe somebody try to wrestle Khabib, see what happens, just to see what happens. But I don't think it's a smart idea. Because once you get wrapped up in the game, you can't. Once you do this, you can't go back, you know? Kind of like what happened to Anthony Johnson when he wrestled Daniel Cormier, remember? And you saw Henry Hoof just, oh, no, what are you doing? Like, yes, it saved you from maybe a shot or something, put you in a good position. But once you do this, you're in there. You're grappling, man, whether you like it or not. So, Justin Gaethje has said it a million times. I do not like wrestling because it makes me tired. And someone that can wrestle for hours is Khabib Nurmagomedov. So, I think it'd be a bad decision from Justin Gaethje to wrestle. Now, if you're hurt and you're rocked, sure, go for the takedown. Try to stall something out, you know? I don't think that'd be a bad idea. But to wrestle in purpose of getting a better position and beating Khabib there, I think it's a bad idea. Maybe if it's like, the last like 20 seconds of the round and you want to shoot him for a takedown, surprise takedown, score something and kind of let him know what's up. Like, yo, I can wrestle too. I think that'd be okay. But generally, just wrestling with Khabib is a bad idea, I think. Let's see. Waffles or pancakes? I like both, man. But I'll go with waffles because they kind of create these like little compartments where the syrup can go in. They don't kind of spill out because of a flat surface of a pancake. However, I do like the fluffiness of pancakes. They have a much better texture. I like both, man. I like both. Tough question. Rice or noodles, dude? You're asking a Colombian. You're asking a Latin American, a South American. Of course, rice. Colombians eat a shit ton of rice. Italian food or Mexican food? Ooh, that's a tough one. Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't wanna upset certain demographics here, but I've been to Italy. I've been to Mexico too. two countries with very, very good food. I'm gonna go fucking shit. Um, I'm gonna go with Italian. I don't feel comfortable about that. I do not feel comfortable about those words. You know what? I'll just skip that one. I like both. Aha! Great fucking question and on timing. Glad you reminded me. What happened to Ponzinibbio? Asks CC 2.0. And Stipe is nearly as inactive as Leon. They're just pressuring him to make it easy not to match him up. So what happened to Ponzinibbio? Well, yesterday I had an interview with Ponzinibbio, which will be on Monday's episode of Hablemos MMA. So that's breaking news here, right? Had announced this before, but I'll announce this since you're asking. Santiago Ponzinibbio will be on Monday's episode of Hablemos MMA. We chatted for like 20 minutes about various topics, and he's down to fight Leon Edwards, and he called out a few other names as well. Very interesting stuff. Revealed some stuff that I wasn't aware of about his health, and you're going to think maybe about the 2019 stuff that happened. No, he recently had some other health stuff. He also had COVID-19. That wasn't reported as well, which kept him out from getting booked. And he told me he tested positive for an entire month. He couldn't go to the gym, and he just kept testing positive, and it lasted about a month. So that's news. And yeah, that'll all be on Monday's episode of Hablemos MMA. It'll obviously be in Spanish. But don't worry, there's always stories that come out of it in English. So yeah, if you don't speak Spanish, you'll hear from Ponzinibbio in English in written form on MMAJunkie.com. So make sure you stay tuned to that. And yeah, Stipe is a fairly even Khabib is a fairly inactive guy, but they're champions. They're different. All right, so I've actually crossed the hour mark here, but I'm gonna go in for a few more minutes and then dip out. Marco Aceves. If Khabib beats Justin, can Tony get one chance to fight him before retirement? You're asking me as if I were Dana White. Dude, if it was up to me, I would have made that fight. I think I would have made that fight a long time ago. I mean, there was obviously a lot of issues, outside of issues that kept that fight from happening. But, dude, I still want to see that fight. I still want to see that fight just like you guys. But to me, and we're being real here, the big fight, I mean, Dana has made it no secret that he wants to see that McGregor-Khabib rematch. Why? The money. It's a big fight. It's a big fight. And look, as a promoter, I don't blame him. You want to make the biggest fights possible, and that is one of the biggest fights possible today in the UFC and in combat sports, period. So that's going to be your title eliminator. So yeah, Tony Ferguson, I don't see him getting a title shot anytime soon. However, like I said earlier, there is a scenario if Conor loses badly. You know, I don't know if people are dying to see a Dustin Poirier rematch, although he would completely deserve a rematch at that point in time. But I think if Tony Ferguson were to pick up a win over someone like Chandler or another big name in that division, then maybe, just maybe he can get a shot. Maybe. We'll see. I still think maybe you could even go to Poirier, to be quite honest. But yeah. Oh, I love these questions always. Mystic Gam. If you had to fight one of these guys, which would you choose? You would have to pick Khabib or Gaethje. Neither. Both guys would fuck me up badly. Let's see. Alex Scaffey. Champions totally out of the top 5. Aggressive but intriguing idea for sure. You got to get these divisions rolling. That's how you get things going again. You know what I'm saying? I think something that I hate and something that I love about the bantamweight division, it's the stalemates, right? Like you see, especially at welterweight and 155, everyone playing chess, everyone playing the game. None of the top guys fighting each other. At 135, constantly, the best guys are fighting the best constantly, like always. There's just always elite fights. At 155, it just seems you have to pull teeth to make a damn good fight in the top 5. And part of it, I think, if you're booting champions out of the top 5, again, unless it's controversial or you've had some a crazy run where you merit an immediate rematch, yeah, boot him out of the top 5, and I'm sure that'll light things up about, hey, give me a fight, I want to return and sort of get the ball rolling. We want to see fights, don't we? I think that would certainly agitate the process and would make fighters be a little bit more open to fighting more often and taking fights. Less of the game, you know what I'm saying? That's how I feel about it. Yeah, I was wondering where you were this week, Danny. Yep, I'm here. Yeah, McGregor hasn't fought at 155 since October 2018, and he's still ranked in the top 5. Yep. But again, McGregor he's his own thing. Ooh, okay. This is a good one. Thoughts on Cormier coaching Tai Tuivasa? Same division, good value? Certainly, there's certainly value. I mean, a big image that I have of Tai Tuivasa is him getting smashed from mount by Junior Dos Santos, right? So certainly he needs some work in the wrestling department. And look, I think every time you switch teams, I think it's always beneficial. That's something I don't like about jiu-jitsu. I think certainly the culture has changed now, and you can say the same thing about MMA. Less so in MMA. I think MMA is a little bit more open as far as cross-training, but I'd love to see more people cross-train. I think it's important to be loyal to a team. They have the best interest not only as a fighter but as a person. But I think there shouldn't be a problem for you to tell your team, hey, I'm gonna step out for a few months and go pick up a few other skills somewhere else. I'll be right back. No hate. I mean, there's certain teams that specialize in certain aspects of the game that you cannot get maybe in one specific team. So it's good to bounce around. It's good to learn different techniques and get different styles, different coaching styles. But yeah, I love it. I love that Tai Tuivasa went to AKA earlier this year. I think it's great for him. He's a young guy. I think he's like 27. That's a baby in the heavyweight division. He's got power. He's got good striking, great personality. I think he's got a lot of potential, but again, he's got some holes that he needs to take care of. And again, it's still a long road ahead of him. I like this Stefan Struve bout, and I think he should keep fighting those type of fights. I don't want to see him fight against Junior Dos Santos and these other guys that are very up there. Again, with fighters that are so young and are still developing, I think, keep them out of the elite. Not because they don't belong, it's just they're not there yet. They could be there at some point, just not yet. So yeah, I love the Stefan Struve bout, and I love that Tai Tuivasa went to AKA to get some knowledge. Roberto Figueroa, thoughts on Atleti Bayern? You're just fucking rubbing it in, huh, Roberto? Evil man. Let's see. I'll answer a couple more and dip out. Oh, hell yeah. I've been getting lots of skirt steak lunch special for $12. Talk about the Colombian restaurant. Hell yeah. Probably with some salad and rice. That's how it goes. Hell yeah. Make sure you get chimichurri. Oh, I was kind of right. And rice and beans and plantains, of course. Yeah, classic. I had a plantains today. Let's see here. Answer a couple more, man. There's a lot of questions. CC 2.0. Will Tatiana Suarez become champ at one point? Everyone thought so. I felt like this has changed. She barely gets a mention anymore. She barely gets a mention because of inactivity. She has a huge neck problem, issue that she can't fight with. She's trying to get it fixed from what I am aware of. And yeah. So that's why nobody's talking about her. Obviously, she's not fighting. But I do think she's a threat. I do think she's a very big lady for that division. Huge, actually. Physically imposing. And on top of that, she's got a very good skill set that what would be the word? That complements her sort of natural gifts, and that is wrestling. So she's kind of like the Khabib of women's MMA a little bit. So I do think she has a shot of becoming a champion if she's healthy. So I hope she's healthy, obviously for health's sake, right? For her well-being, and also so she can continue to fight, make a legacy. Hopefully, maybe one day become champion. I think she has the tools to do that. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Skipped Twitter questions. Thumbs down. Jorge. Also, like, no, let me double check. If I skip it, it's because I didn't put a tweet saying last call, but usually I say last call. So if once this thing gets rolling and you're asking questions, I'm not gonna get to it because I have to cut them out and load them onto the system. So yeah. But let me just double check here. Jorge, I do not see yours. I don't see yours. If you asked it today, I'd get to it. All right, let's see. Applied phenotype. I believe Andrade will be competitive when she faces Valentina, but do you think she has the potential to beat Valentina? Dude, I'm a big fan of Andrade. I am a very big believer in her skill set. I think she has one thing that in women's MMA, and again, there's no disrespect to women, is not often seen, and it might come off as condescending, but trust me, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the ladies. But it's that raw knockout power and athleticism, right? Like Amanda Nunes has it, and it makes her special. I would say that Valentina Shevchenko has it. She's obviously a very skilled fighter that's very dangerous and can knock people out. I mean, look at what she did to Jessica Ai. But I think a lot of that it's attributed to her fantastic skill level. I think her skill level is just, it's just way up there, way up there. Andrade has just that. Now, look, if Andrade never took an MMA class in her life and she wouldn't know much technique, I guarantee you, if somebody tried her on the street, she'd like flatten some dude out easy. She's just a freak athlete, and again, very powerful, very strong. Not only with her punching power, but just with grappling as well. Very fast as well, very explosive. And that's something that a few women at 125 have lacked, like Caitlin Shikagan and a few others when challenging Valentina Shevchenko. So I do give Andrade the best chance out of anybody in that division. I think she can make Valentina struggle with some aspects of the game, maybe in the wrestling department. The speed could prove be important. Again, I think it could very well be like kind of like a Joanna Jędrzejczyk situation where she just stays in the outside and does the whole bull matador thing and just picks her apart. But it wouldn't be an easy fight for Shevchenko. I think she would definitely acknowledge that, hey, Andrade is a game opponent here. I got to be on my A game or I could get knocked out. I like her chances. I think they should give her another fight. Have her pick up another victory at 125 and throw her to Shevchenko. I think I'd love to see that fight. I still pick Shevchenko, by the way. I don't think anybody beats Shevchenko. That doesn't mean you can't have competitive fights, though. Let's see here. All right. Last question. Before you go, who should Khamzat fight? Chris Weidman. I kind of like that fight, to be honest. I think it makes sense, man. Chris Weidman is certainly not what he used to be as a fighter. But if I were to ask you, who are the best? Because a lot of people think Chris Weidman is in the rankings. I believe he's ranked number 9 right now because of the name value. And I think name value certainly in history and all that, and being a former champ certainly gives fighters a little bit of stock to stay in the rankings. I'm not discarding that idea whatsoever. I think it's completely fair. However, if I do say who are the best 15 fighters at 185 pounds, I think you have to include Chris Weidman in there, right? I mean, let me read you the top 15 real quick, and you let me know in the YouTube live chat. If there's not if there's nobody that Chris Weidman can't beat from that top 15. That's how you find out if a dude's in the top, should be in the top 15 or not. Can Chris Weidman beat Ian Heinisch? Probably. Can he beat Marvin Vettori? Probably. Can he beat Omari Akhmedov? He beat him. Can he beat Brad Tavares? I like his chances. Can he beat Edmund Shabazian? I'd probably pick Shabazian, but wouldn't rule out a win for Chris Weidman. Uriah Hall, I mean, bad matchup for Hall wrestling, right? Maybe. Kelvin Gastelum, at this point, I don't think so. Derek Brunson, I don't think so. And then now we're getting in the top 7. Darren Till, I don't think so. Joel Romero, I don't think so. Jack Hermanson, I don't think so. Paulo Costa, I don't think so. Jared Cannonier, Robert Whittaker. So again, it seems he's rightly placed. Number 9, because against 10, who's Hall, Shabazian, 11, Tavares, 12, Omari Akhmedov, 12. There's 2 12s there. That's weird. Marvin Vettori, 14, and Ian Heinisch at 15. I kind of like his chances in those bouts. And Khamzat Chimaev at this Khamzat at this point in time, Khamzat Chimaev, sorry, he needs a ranked opponent. However, not a top 5, not a top 10-ish. Outside of that, or I think that's what he needs. He needs a top 15 guy. And look, who else would be better than Chris Weidman, who has a big name and could offer him a lot of sort of respect and sort of have that staple in his record. And I think it'd be a good fight, and you can't completely count out Weidman in that one. Again, would you be opposed to Hall versus Khamzat or Tavares or anyone like that? I think that's kind of the opponent that he deserves. I mean, he's proven that he beats the guys right outside of the top 15. Now let's see what he can do against the top 15. So I know a lot of people were rolling their eyes with that Twitter call-out, but Chris Weidman versus Khamzat, that makes sense in my book. It really does. All right, so with that being said, I'm out of here. I appreciate the questions via Twitter and via the YouTube live chat. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Remember, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share this on Twitter. I'll retweet you. And also, share it with your friends. Let them know what's up so this show and this program can keep on growing, all right? I should be back next week at Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. But if I'm not, just know that I will put something out on Twitter. So just follow me on Twitter at Danny Segura TV to stay informed about everything that I do in this space of mixed martial arts and also the times for these things. But should be at 10:30 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday. So see you then, I guess. Again, thank you for tuning in. Talk to you guys next week. Peace.